French President Emmanuel Macron insulted an entire continent with a single remark. In his eyes, Africa and Africans were invisible, not even human. But then, for the first time in history, something extraordinary happened on African soil, something that sent shockwaves through the global mining industry. At the exact same moment, on the same day, in Burkina Faso, multiple CEOs of powerful foreign mining corporations were arrested. One by one, they were taken from their luxury 5-star hotel suites in handcuffs, stunned, powerless, and silent. Behind this bold, unprecedented move stood Ibrahim Traoré, the fearless leader of Burkina Faso. How could the so-called untouchable kings of billion-dollar empires fall so fast in the very land they had drained and desecrated for decades? How could a machine of plunder and quiet theft, running unchecked for over half a century, collapse in a single night? This is that story. And if you want more untold truths from deep inside Africa, the ones the headlines never show, subscribe now. Here's how it all began. 5 a.m., the 10th of August. The streets of Ouagadougou were barely waking up, but behind closed doors, special forces were already in motion. In 7 different luxury hotels across the city, elite units moved in, door knocks, swift entries. Within minutes, some of the most powerful figures in the mining world were in custody. Victor Pro's CEO of Goldmax Corporation, USA, Jean-Claude Dubois, CEO of Canadian Western Gold Mining, Canada, Michael Thompson, CEO of Pacific Resources, Australia. This wasn't chaos, it wasn't chance, it was a masterstroke, planned to perfection. Months earlier, President Traoré had quietly ordered a full audit of every foreign mining operation in the country. He assembled a secret task force of legal experts, financial analysts, and resource policy specialists. What they uncovered was staggering. Over 60 years, these companies had extracted over $600 billion worth of gold from Burkina Faso, yet only $20 billion ever reached the national treasury. The rest vanished. For 6 months, not a single word leaked. The investigation planted informants at mining sites, deployed drones for high-resolution aerial images, and even pulled satellite data to cross-check production volumes. The truth was worse than anyone imagined. Some companies were underreporting production by as much as 80%. 9 out of every 10 ounces of gold dug from Burkina Faso's earth was being smuggled away, hidden off the books, stolen from its people. What happened next changed everything. President Ibrahim Traoré didn't mince words. Standing before the nation and the world, he declared, "Gold ripped from our soil by the blood and sweat of our people now sits in European vaults. Meanwhile, my people starve. That ends now." His warning to the foreign mining executives was cold, direct, and final. Return what you stole, or spend the rest of your life in prison. This was no empty threat. The arrests were swift, surgical, and relentless. At the Goldmax Corporation's suite in a luxury hotel, billionaire CEO Victor Pro tried frantically to summon his private security team. Too late. Special forces had already locked down the building. He was dragged from his room, still in pajamas, and hauled to a maximum security prison. Across town, Jean-Claude Dubois, head of Canadian Western Gold Mining, was racing to the airport. His private jet was fueled and waiting, but Traoré had already shut down the airspace and sealed the borders. Dubois' convoy was intercepted. He never made it to the runway. Meanwhile, Michael Thompson of Australia's Pacific Resources was caught mid-crime in a hotel conference room, frantically wiring corporate assets out of the country. His laptop, still open, became a key piece of evidence in the trials to come. The operation left nothing to chance. Long before the first arrests, Traoré had ordered every mining company in Burkina Faso to surrender 10 years of financial records. Then, he brought in an army of forensic accountants, legal analysts, and anti-corruption investigators from across the globe. What they found was staggering. Take Goldmax Corporation. In 2020 alone, the company extracted $600 million worth of gold from the Topico mine. When tax season came, They paid just $60 million to the state. How? By reporting only 10% of their actual production. In reality, they pulled 10 tons of gold a day, but on paper, they logged just 1. The other 9, smuggled, hidden, gone. For decades, this was the system. Riches out, poverty in. The scams were elaborate. Western gold mining's trick? Fake invoices. On paper, they sold gold bars worth $70,000 for only $20,000, funneling the difference into offshore accounts, untaxed, untraceable. Pacific Resources went even further, pulling off one of the most brazen frauds Traoré's team had ever seen. They used their own workers' paychecks to commit tax crimes. Officially, miners earned 10 times more than they actually received. The company claimed those inflated salaries as tax deductions, pocketing the phantom expenses as profit. Traoré wasn't fooled. He went through the paperwork himself page by page, highlighting, stamping, and filing. What he was building was nothing less than a legal time bomb. And when it went off, it didn't just expose corporate theft, it revealed a web of corruption, reaching the highest levels of government. The bribes ran deep. Most recently, on the 18th of February, 2025, then Energy Secretary Mark Carbor accepted a $60 million bribe from Goldmax in exchange for lowering the company's tax rate from 30 to 13%. This dirty deal alone cost Burkina Faso $2 billion a year. In 2021, Western Gold Mining paid $150 million to Francois Carbor, then President Ro Carbor's brother, for 3 new gold mining licenses. Those lands belonged to local villages. The price? 50,000 people were forced from their homes and farms. Families were torn apart, communities were wiped out. Now, ask yourself, if that land was your home, if your grandparents were buried there, what would justice mean to you? Traoré had seen enough. With ironclad evidence in hand, he filed charges at the International Criminal Court, accusing these corporations of crimes against humanity, forced displacement, child labor, and mass environmental destruction. The ICC accepted the case. Now, the world is watching. Justice is no longer a dream. It's in motion. Then came Traoré's boldest move yet. He didn't stop at arrests. He froze every bank account connected to foreign mining companies. He seized their local assets. And, most importantly, he placed every ounce of Burkina Faso's gold reserves worth over $200 billion under full state control. From that moment on, the gold no longer belonged to foreign billionaires or silent overseas partners. It belonged to the people. The world's reaction was instant and loud. The story exploded across global headlines. Western media painted Traoré as a dictator. The European Union called an emergency session. The United States issued stern warnings and thinly veiled threats, but Traoré didn't flinch. We are enforcing our own laws. For half a century, these companies have ignored every rule, dodged taxes, exploited our land, and abused our people. Now they are being held accountable. We are not afraid of Western threats. Back home, the people rallied behind him. Hundreds of thousands filled the streets of Ouagadougou, waving flags and carrying banners that read, "Our gold is ours." For the first time, the nation stood as one: farmers, miners, teachers, elders, united behind their leader. In the mining villages, hope, real hope, began to grow. Amadou Sawado, a 64-year-old miner who had worked the gold fields for more than 50 years, stood before television cameras, tears running down his face. "Europe grew rich off the gold I pulled from the ground, but my children still can't afford to go to school. Finally, someone is fighting for us." Meanwhile, the once untouchable CEO's men, who had lived in private jets and 5-star hotels, were now in overcrowded, sweltering prisons, facing consequences they had never imagined. Victor Pro, CEO of Goldmax, tried to protest with a hunger strike on his first day in custody. Traoré's reply was calm and cutting. Our mine workers go hungry every day. Maybe now you'll understand what that feels like. Jean-Claude Dubois, head of Western Gold, thought he could buy his freedom. Through high-powered lawyers, he offered $1 billion in bail. Traoré laughed. $1 billion? That's nothing compared to the $600 billion you stole from our people. And let's be honest, that money was ours to begin with. Michael Thompson of Pacific Resources tried to fake a heart attack, collapsing in a prison hallway, gasping and clutching his chest like a scene from a bad movie. Traoré sent in his own medical team. Diagnosis: no heart problems, no symptoms, nothing but a failed attempt to manipulate the system. A stunt backfired and was added to the list of obstruction charges, and the arrests didn't stop there. Robert Mackenzie of Continental Gold, charged with forcibly displacing entire communities. James Harrison of African Minerals, accused of employing children as young as 10 in dangerous, brutal conditions. Peter Williams of Global Mining Co-op, held responsible for massive environmental destruction, including wiping out forests and poisoning rivers. David Anderson of Summit Resources, exposed for financing and arming militant groups. Then came the trials. The world watched in disbelief as justice took center stage in Burkina Faso. Traoré had already set the tone. A special, independent court, historic, incorruptible. 7 judges, 3 from Africa, 2 from Asia, 2 from Latin America. No Western influence, no corporate lobbyists, no backroom deals. The message was unmistakable. This time, the game would not be rigged. This time, justice would not be outsourced. It would be delivered here, on African soil. On day 1, the prosecutor read out the charges. Victor Petro Goldmax. 20 counts: tax evasion, bribery, land theft, environmental destruction, forced displacement. Jean-Claude Dubois, Western Gold. 17 counts including child labor. Children as young as 12 worked 16-hour shifts underground, most dead before 15. Michael Thompson, Pacific Resources. Cyanide mining that poisoned 3 rivers, killing over 3,000 people in 8 villages. The victims spoke. Musa Orarugo, forced into the mines at age 8, now crippled by lung disease. They stole my childhood, my health, my life. Mariam Cow, 70, whose village was bulldozed for gold. They destroyed everything for $100. Traoré was there every day, in the front row, unshaken. This isn't just about Burkina Faso. This is about Africa. If we stand, others will rise too. And they did. Mali, Guinea, Niger, one after another. Leaders tore up corrupt mining deals. Western mining stocks crashed. Goldmax lost 70% of its value. Pacific Resources shut down across Africa. Europe went into crisis mode. Closed-door meetings. Emergency calls. Then came the threats. French President Emmanuel Macron went public, furious. You'll pay for this. You don't get to touch our investors. Traoré didn't blink. Say colonizers, not investors. Real investors are welcome. Thieves in suits. Not anymore. Then came President Biden, threatening sanctions and cutting U.S. aid. Traoré laughed. Which aid? The $200 million you give a year? We'll make $20 billion from our own gold. Keep your aid, give it to your puppet states. Back in court, the mask came off. Leaked internal emails from seized laptops exposed the truth. These weren't just corrupt men, they were calculated predators. Goldmax Corporation executives called the people of Burkina Faso stupid natives, bragging, we can make them do anything for a few million in bribes. They dance for dollars. Western Gold mining chats reduced child labor to a line item. Why pay $200 to one adult when you can give $30 each to 10 kids and they never complain? CEO Jean-Claude Dubois. Pacific Resources memos openly instructed dumping cyanide waste into rivers. No one will notice. These people don't live long anyway. Continental Gold's Robert Mackenzie called mass evictions a necessary sacrifice for progress. African Minerals' James Harrison brushed off deadly mine accidents as acceptable losses. Global mining co-ops Peter Williams dismissed entire ecosystems destroyed. Nature will heal itself eventually. When Traoré read these files, he didn't shout, but his hands trembled. Closing the folder, he looked ahead and said, "Now you see what they really think of us. To them, we're disposable. But that ends today. The game is over." Month 6. The verdict. The courtroom was packed. Silence hung heavy. Justice spoke. Guilty? Every single one. Viktor Petrov, Gold Max 40 years in prison, $10 billion fine. Jean-Claude Dubois, Western Gold 35 years, $8 billion fine. Michael Thompson, Pacific Resources life in prison for mass poisoning and thousands of deaths. Robert Mackenzie, Continental Gold, 31 years for forced displacement. James Harrison, African Minerals, 50 years for deadly child labor. Peter Williams, Global Mining Co-op, 40 years for catastrophic environmental destruction. David Anderson, Summit Resources life without parole for funding armed militants. Then a twist no one saw coming. The court didn't just hand down prison time, it stripped everything. Gone. Yachts, beachside mansions, private jets, offshore accounts, priceless art, all seized. And the final blow, every cent from their liquidation would go directly to the victims' families, not to the government, not to corporations, to the people. On the courthouse steps, President Ibrahim Traoré addressed the world. His voice was steady, heavy with history. Today, we didn't just put 7 men on trial, we put 500 years of colonial theft on trial. And today, we won. Our land, our gold, our future belongs to us. He didn't stop there. Every remaining asset owned by foreign mining giants was seized. No loopholes, no delays. It was over. Then came his boldest move, yet launching the Burkina Faso National Mining Company, a state-owned powerhouse, to control the nation's gold for the people. Change came instantly. 50% of revenue went directly to schools, hospitals, roads, and clean water. Worker salaries soared from $40, 50 rupees, to $700 a month. Child labor gone, banned forever. Safety standards hit world-class levels. Fatal accidents dropped to 0. Villages once abandoned were alive again. Schools replacing dirt pits, clinics replacing despair. In the streets, joy was everywhere. Children danced barefoot, mothers cried. Elders raised fists in pride. Traoré brought back our gold. He's one of us. Festivals lit up the country. Poverty fell at record speed. The numbers told the story. 300% national income growth in 1 year, 200 new schools, 100 hospitals, 8,000 kilometers of paved roads, electricity to 1,000 plus villages, clean water for over 2 million people. This wasn't just reform, it was a renaissance. Education became the crown jewel. Technical universities sprang up in every mining region, offering free scholarships to 10,000 students, engineers, geologists, chemists, trained right at home, close to family and culture, and the ripples spread across Africa. In Mali, 5 mining CEOs were arrested. In Guinea, bauxite mines were nationalized. In Niger, uranium mines returned to state hands. A fresh wind was sweeping the continent. Africa was waking up. At a rally in the capital, Traoré stood before thousands and said, "We're not enemies to anyone. Our doors are open to any country that wants to play fair and trade honestly. Make no mistake, the age of exploitation is over. Africa's resources belong to its people." While hope bloomed across Burkina Faso, the once untouchable CEOs sat in sweltering prison cells, forgotten by the world they once commanded. Their empires lay in ruins. Gold Max Corporation gone, reduced to dust. Western Gold Mining sold for scraps to an unknown upstart. Pacific Resources dismantled, piece by piece, to pay its debts. What Traoré accomplished wasn't just a headline. It was history written in the open air. For the first time, an African leader stood unshaken, face to face with Western greed, and he won. From that day on, nothing was the same. The people no longer stood on the sidelines, they lived the change. Their gold no longer vanished across oceans. It stayed home, building schools in the villages, hospitals in the towns, roads cutting through mountains, once isolated for generations. Children no longer coughed in the dark mines. They chased soccer balls under open skies, their hands holding books instead of shovels. Workers no longer scraped by, they built homes, fed their families, and walked with dignity. And Traoré's fight didn't stop at Burkina Faso's borders, it leapt across oceans, sparking movements in Latin America, in Asia, anywhere injustice had taken root. Flags rose in the wind. Voices, once silenced for decades, rose to shout again. Slowly, inevitably, his belief proved true. Justice always finds a way, sometimes late, sometimes roaring like thunder, but it always arrives. The old order built on stolen wealth and quiet violence began to crack. Africa was awake now, and this time no one would strip its treasures away, not by chance, by will, by people who refuse to kneel, by leaders like Traoré who wake each morning ready to take another step toward a free, sovereign Africa. One day soon, the continent's wealth will no longer be ink on shady contracts signed in foreign boardrooms. It will be the birthright of Africa's children, unshakable, unquestionable, undeniable. That day is coming. Traoré, lead the torch. Now the people carry it forward. If this story moved you, share your voice in the comments. If you believe in justice, dignity, and a rising Africa, like, share, and subscribe to walk this journey with us. The truth is rising, and this is only the beginning.